were glowing with warm lights strung across houses and shops. Families hurried home with shopping bags, children carried wrapped gifts, and laughter filled the air as the aroma of roasted chestnuts drifted from vendors on street corners. For most, it was a night of joy and togetherness. But for a woman named Claire, it was a night of emptiness, hunger, and bitter cold. Wrapped in a worn-out coat with holes in the sleeves, she wandered the alleyways behind restaurants and cafes, hoping to find something left behind that might quiet the ache in her stomach. She had once lived a life of comfort, but a series of cruel twists, job loss, illness, and betrayal, had led her here. On this night of celebration, she was alone, with nothing but her courage to keep her going. At the same time, across town, a man named Jonathan sat in his luxurious penthouse apartment, staring at the glittering skyline. He was a millionaire entrepreneur, successful beyond what most could dream of. He had built a business empire and provided his young son, Daniel, with every material comfort imaginable. Yet despite the wealth, Jonathan felt something missing, something hollow that no amount of money could fill. Since his wife had passed away years earlier, Christmas had never felt the same. He hosted no parties, avoided festive gatherings, and spent most of his nights buried in work. His only true joy was Daniel, who at just 8 years old, carried a warmth and kindness that reminded Jonathan of the love he had lost. That evening, Daniel had begged his father to take a walk with him through the city to see the Christmas lights. Reluctantly, Jonathan agreed, wrapping his son in a red scarf before they stepped out into the cold. As they strolled past decorated shop windows and carolers singing on corners, Daniel's eyes sparkled with wonder. Jonathan watched his son's delight, realizing how distant he had become from the magic of simple joys. For Daniel, Christmas wasn't about wealth or gifts, it was about kindness, warmth, and love. Their walk eventually led them down a quieter street where few people passed. That's when Daniel stopped suddenly, tugging at his father's hand. In the dim glow of a streetlight, they saw her, Claire, kneeling beside a trash bin, carefully sorting through discarded bags. Her hands were trembling as she pulled out a half-eaten sandwich, brushing it off as if it were treasure. Jonathan's first instinct was to turn away, to shield his son from the sight. But Daniel stepped forward, his young voice cutting through the silence. "Excuse me, miss," he said gently, "are you hungry?" Claire looked up, startled, her cheeks flushed with shame. For a moment she considered running, but something in the boy's innocent eyes made her stay. She nodded, unable to speak. Daniel looked at his father, his expression pleading. Jonathan hesitated, he was not a man who often stopped for strangers. But he saw the desperation in Claire's eyes, and for once, his heart overpowered his pride. He handed her the scarf he had tucked in his coat pocket and said softly, "Come with us." Claire followed them hesitantly, unsure if this was real or some cruel trick. They walked to a small cafe still open late, where Jonathan ordered hot soup, bread, and tea for her. She ate slowly, carefully, as though afraid it might be taken away. Daniel chatted with her the whole time, asking her name, where she was from, and telling her about his school and how much he loved Christmas trees. Slowly, Claire began to smile, a smile she hadn't felt on her face in years. When the meal was done, Jonathan reached for his wallet, intending to leave money for her, but Claire shook her head. "I don't need your money," she said softly, her voice breaking. "What I needed tonight was kindness. I had forgotten what it felt like." Her words struck Jonathan like lightning. For years he had thrown money at problems, believing wealth could solve anything. But here was a woman who had nothing, yet reminded him that the most valuable gift one could give was compassion. When they stepped back outside, snow had begun to fall, covering the streets in a soft white blanket. Daniel, holding Claire's hand now, asked innocently, "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Claire lowered her gaze. She admitted she had been sleeping in a shelter, but it was overcrowded and unsafe, so she often stayed on the streets instead. Jonathan felt a pang of guilt. The thought of returning to his warm home while leaving this woman in the cold suddenly felt unbearable. Against all his instincts of detachment, he spoke. "You'll come with us tonight," he said firmly. Claire's eyes widened in disbelief. "I couldn't, you don't even know me." Jonathan looked at her, his expression serious. "I know enough. You need a chance, and maybe we need you too." And so, for the first time in years, Jonathan's grand apartment was filled with something more than silence. Claire sat by the fireplace with Daniel, helping him string popcorn garlands for the tree, while Jonathan watched quietly from across the room. The way she listened to his son, the way she smiled at his jokes, the gentle warmth she carried even through her hardship, it stirred something deep within Jonathan. For once, Christmas didn't feel lonely. Over the next few days, Claire stayed with them. She insisted on helping around the house, cooking meals, and even telling Daniel bedtime stories. Jonathan learned more of her past, that she had once been a teacher, passionate about literature, until life's hardships had stripped her of everything. The more he listened, the more he admired her resilience. He realized she had a strength no business deal or bank account could buy. Daniel grew especially attached to her. One evening, as Jonathan tucked him into bed, Daniel whispered, "Dad, she's like the Christmas gift we didn't know we needed." The words hit Jonathan straight in the heart. He realized his son was right. In helping Claire, they had found healing themselves. As the days turned into weeks, Jonathan decided to do more than offer temporary shelter. He reached out to contacts, helped Claire update her credentials, and encouraged her to apply for teaching positions again. At first, she resisted, afraid of rejection, but Jonathan reminded her, "The world may have knocked you down, but it didn't take away who you are." With his support, Claire slowly regained her confidence. One snowy morning in January, she received a call. She had been hired at a local school. Tears filled her eyes as she hugged Jonathan and Daniel tightly. It wasn't just a job, it was a second chance at life. Months passed, and Claire became more than just a guest in their home, she became family. Jonathan, once so guarded, found himself opening his heart again. On quiet evenings, they would sit by the fire, talking for hours about dreams, loss, and hope. He realized that in saving her from despair, she had saved him from loneliness. One Christmas later, the three of them stood together by the tree, their laughter echoing through the home. Jonathan looked at Claire and Daniel and felt a fullness in his heart he hadn't known since his wife passed. Claire had given him the greatest gift, not through wealth or possessions, but through love, compassion, and the reminder of what it meant to truly live. That night, as snowflakes danced outside the window, Jonathan whispered a silent prayer of gratitude. Sometimes, the most unexpected encounters change everything. On that Christmas Eve, he thought he was helping a stranger, but in truth, she had changed his life forever. Sparkle's word count, approximately 1,600. Would you like me to make this script more cinematic with pauses, emotions, and scene transitions for voiceover narration, or keep it in plain storytelling style for reading as an article?